What's up guys, it's Oblivious Gamer here, and well, today I just wanted to do a brief video talking about Street Fighter 6 and the old question, do you need an arcade stick to play it? Right now Street Fighter 6 is about to come out. It's been reviewed quite well currently. As the time that I'm making this video, it's a 92 on Metacritic. People are praising it everywhere, so it seems it's gonna be a very good fighting game. With this, obviously, a lot of new people are gonna be coming into the franchise or the genre as a whole. And if you don't follow fighting games, or if you do know, you might see that the fighting game community has a very big tradition when it comes to what device they use to play the game. And you probably have seen people use arcade sticks, or as we've seen in the past couple of years that have been in quite the popularity, hitboxes. So with people seeing obviously tournaments, footage and stuff of people using, arcade sticks, hitboxes, people do wonder, do you need that to play a fighting game at an optimal level, or do you need that to, be able to play well a fighting game? And to answer quickly, it's no. There's a ton of fighting game players that just use their pad. I mean, there's even people who have won Evo, Combo Breaker, big tournaments just by using pad. You don't need a arcade stick or a hitbox to be able to play fighting games at an optimal level. At least with the newer generation of fighting games, developers have been focusing more on how they can make it more accessible also for controllers. With Street Fighter 6, you can obviously play it traditionally, or you can use modern controllers, which is probably like a lot easier for pad. At the same time, this notion of, using arcade stick comes from years ago where, fighting games used to first come out in arcades. And of course, people will be playing it first in arcades and they get used to, the control scheme of the arcade. So then that's why a lot of people will be like, nah, I'm just gonna get an arcade stick. At the same time, also, I do feel control form factor has changed a lot in the years. And I feel we are at a point where a controller feels very comfortable that you could play a fighting game with it. It took a lot of years to get where we are. We even saw that the last generation to this generation didn't really have that big of a change when it came to the controllers. Now, if you are interested in an arcade stick or a hitbox, there's a lot to consider because you have to understand arcade sticks can be very cheap, but they can also get very expensive. You can get a Mayflash, which usually are considered very low tier of fighting arcade sticks. They're not bad, but there's a lot better out there, and they tend to be like $50 to $60 range. Or you can get a Victrix, which is considered very premium, and well, they are priced premium. They're $400, almost the price of a console. For me, I've owned some arcade sticks. I have a Qanba Dragon. I used to have a Hori Rap 4. I have hitboxes controllers too. I used to have a hitbox. I gave it to a friend. I have the Empress. I have the Victrix Pro hitbox version controller, and I also do own a Mayflash, which I modded completely myself. So in terms of price ranges, it's really important for you to see where do you want to go, because are you going to be somebody who you're just going to play the fighting game, in this case Street Fighter 6, for a little bit, or are you somebody who's like, well, I do see myself playing this the long term to make a heavy investment? For me, I usually recommend people to go with a mid-tier stick, anywhere from $100 to $200. I feel that's usually a good range. Qanba, a very popular brand for arcade sticks, recently they just released their new PS5 arcade sticks. They have some fantastic arcade sticks between the $100 to $200 range. Hori also has some fantastic arcade sticks. They recently released the PS5 version, and they do have an Xbox Series version, all for $199. Because that's another thing to look at. When you get an arcade stick, it's very rare for you to find one that's multi-platform for everything. A lot of times they tend to be PS5 PC or Xbox Series PC, or just PC. Some you would find it out there that can be multi-platform, but a lot times they tend to be towards one specific platform with PC as an addition. So you also have to check that out, make sure you don't get the wrong one. Now, for example, Qanba, as far as my understanding goes, with the drone, the Obsidian, and the Titan, they are only for PlayStation, but you can buy a Brooks converter, which if you ask anyone from the FGC, they will vouch they're good converters. You can get one for your Xbox. So you'll be able to use a Qanba arcade stick with your Xbox Series just by buying a converter, which it's not very expensive. And vice versa, they also recently released their PS5 converter. So for me, as I said before, I usually think Qanba and Hori are very good starter parts. The other thing to consider for the arcade stick is, and I think this is more the long term if you're somebody who you think you will be committed, but how easy it is to mod. Because a lot of people, they will get their arcade sticks and that would be it. But then parts can get broken, or maybe you want to, add some uniqueness to that arcade stick. And some are very easy to mod, like my Qanba Dragon. You just press a button, you have access to everything. Wires are color coded. Like, it's very easy to mod, and this is one of the arcade sticks that I modded everything from the lever to the buttons to even changing the artwork. There's also others that are like a bit harder to mod, but it doesn't mean that they're impossible. And most modern sticks have, especially the ones that are being released now, have done a very good job of being easy to mod. They tend to have like latches to be able to check everything. I know, for example, the Hori, the new ones that just came out, they are easy for you to, change your artwork. I know, for example, the junk food hitboxes, they're also recently released a version where you'll be able to change the artwork. So I think that's another point to consider when it comes to these types of decisions. In the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what you use to play a fighting game. It's gonna be up to you and what you're more comfortable with. That doesn't mean that if you are curious about an arcade stick, you shouldn't, get one. And when you get one, you do have a bit of a learning curve to get used to it. So you might, have some trouble for a bit, but it's a fun learning curve, I believe. But you shouldn't be forced or think that, like, damn, if I get an arcade stick, I'm gonna be an amazing player. It's most of the time that's not the case. You can play with pad very easily, and you might be saving some money depending on like where you land. Like I said, there are the cheap ones, but the cheap ones do have some caveats. Like, for example, Mayflash, cheap. They have cheap parts, and also you do have to connect your controller to be able to use it on consoles. Obviously, as Mayflash does have a version where I don't think it needs a controller, maybe, but that's like the higher tier you get, because that version I think is more expensive. But once you're reaching the $100, there is also like official arcade sticks, like the Qanba drone is just 120, 129. Like, maybe you would want to jump to that, but you shouldn't feel pressure at all. And I don't think it's gonna really change how much you play the game. I mean, look at me. I got my arcade stick and I'm decent at fighting games. I really don't feel my jump between pad to arcade stick and hitbox did that much of a difference. Like, I don't feel I am better just because I'm using a different controller than everybody else. And I also don't feel a lot of players look at that way. So in the end of the day, I think if you have pad and you are a little bit concerned, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Though, if you do want an arcade stick, there's definitely a lot out there. There's a lot of good choices. And also a lot of videos with people going very deep into those arcade sticks that I definitely recommend checking out if you are curious. So what are your thoughts, guys? Have you tried playing an arcade stick? If so, how has been your journey? If not, if you just play, for example, on controller, are you considering maybe moving to an arcade stick or just like sticking with controller? Feel free to leave your thoughts down below. This has been Oblivious Gamer, and I hope you'll have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.